we start with our second speaker, which is Christine, I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that deaf and hard of hearing children don't typically need this, but when children have more than one issue, and especially motor issues, and it's either like apraxia or possibly, you know, they have cerebral palsy and just have no way of communicating back what they have. That's when we're looking at the AAC device as an option for those children that cannot speak on their own. So our next speaker is Christine Kramlich. She is with PRC Saltillo, Senior Regional Consultant with Northeast Georgia. She received her bachelor's arts degree in special education from Florida State University with a focus in vision impairment and blindness and deaf-blind education. She holds a teaching certificate at the state of Georgia with endorsements in vision impairment and deaf-blind education. She has worked with a variety of settings as a teacher of the visually impaired for the past 14 years. Notably, she's the Teacher of the Year at South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind in 2000. Throughout her teaching career, Christine has been dedicated to implementing assistive technology solutions, including augmentative alternative communication and educational programming for those throughout the school day. She has personal experience with a family member who is a communication device user. For the past 11 years, Christine has worked with PRC Saltillo, helping individuals find communication solutions that work for them and supporting them once they find their voice. I did get the pleasure of watching her just briefly at a BCW Babies Can't Wait meeting, and that's what made me want to get in touch with Christine. Christine, take it over.
So I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
And then you can share. I see you.
Yep, we see you.
See you. And I'll tell you when everything looks good. Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Done this
Perfect.
before.
Can you hear me all right too?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for having me today. It is a pleasure to be here with all you guys. As you heard, I do have a history of being a teacher. I taught blind and visually impaired for many years with a focus in deaf-blind education. That's what I got my master's degree in. And so it truly is one of my loves. I worked at both the South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind, and also I did my internship at the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. So loved that job, and I'd probably still be doing that today, except for 19 years ago, a little girl joined my life, my second daughter, Kylie. She would be so embarrassed that I'm showing you this picture, but we don't get family pictures that often. So, and plus she was doggone cute then. Anyhow, so she changed my life and I got into doing communication devices because I saw how powerful it was for her and how much it impacted her life. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit from our personal experience today and from my experience as a teacher and now a consultant for PRC Saltillo. So this is what we're going to be learning about today. And these examples are going to be embedded throughout the class, throughout our time together. So as we're going through the talk about my daughter and her growing up years, you will hear me discuss some of these comments. And this is what the agenda is going to look like, a little bit about what is AAC, who can benefit from it, some examples, and how it worked for one family, specifically our family. Just so you know, ASHA, which is the American Speech Hearing Association, that's the governing body for speech therapists, says that AAC is an area of clinical practice that attempts to compensate either temporarily or permanently for the impairment and disability patterns of individuals with severe expressive communication disorders. AAC incorporates the individual's full communication abilities, and many include any existing speech, vocalizations, gestures, manual signs, and aided communication. So all that to say, AAC is not meant to be a replacement for speech, for sign, for any of those kinds of things. It's really meant to be an alternate way to communicate. So if somebody is not understanding you, for instance, if I'm saying a word, you don't get it, I say it again, you don't get it, I say it again, you don't get it, maybe then I go to my AAC. So who can benefit? Lots of people can benefit. Individuals with cerebral palsy, autism, Down syndrome, deaf and hard of hearing, blind, just depends on what it is that you're needing. Also adults with acquired disabilities like ALS, stroke, traumatic brain injury. So often these folks on the left side, those who have some sort of developmental disability, maybe happened at birth, they're using AAC to acquire language, to develop language and communication oftentimes. These folks on the other side, these adults, they probably already had language and now they're using AAC to augment whatever happened in their life to cause them to no longer be able to speak. And some questions that you sometimes ask is, well, is this person spelling? If they're spelling, that might lead to a different form of AAC than if they're not able to spell. If it's a 3-year-old versus a 21-year-old, that might make a difference about what kind of AAC you're considering. So we do believe in all kinds of interventions. And so a lot of the things that we're doing are conventional signs, right? So that's something, this is a no tech. No tech means no technology at all. So if you ask me how my day was and I say, most people are going to understand what that means. That's because it's a conventional sign. It's something accepted by the world, right? If I tell you, then you're going to know that's a conventional sign, right? It's an agreed upon thing. We all know that that means good. Non-conventional signs, those are signs that are more almost like home signs, right? So in my experience, I knew this little boy, his name was Max. And if you asked him a question, he would often say that. Well, that for him meant yes. That was his way to say yes. Well, if you don't know Max, you may not understand that that's his way of saying yes. So that's a non-conventional sign. It's a sign that only people who know and love Max are going to understand, which is good. It just means that you just need to keep that in mind, right? And then we have those individuals who act on objects. So if I am pulling you to the kitchen and I am tapping on the cupboard to tell you that I want something inside there, that is what we call acting on an object. It's another way to communicate in a no-tech way. Now there's also low tech. I heard Jason mentioning about low tech. I think low tech is a beautiful way to start, and it's also important to have as a backup. And you're going to hear a little bit about some low tech things that we have done with my daughter specifically. So I'm going to try to show you this video here, if I can. So hang on, because I think it's on my wrong screen. So I'm going to move it over to this screen. So this is, I don't have sound. I'm not sure why I plugged speakers in, but they don't seem to be functioning right. So this is me and this is Kylie. And this is a low tech board. It has the words more, stop, go, mind play, on, turn, hello, just a few things, right? So what I'm doing is I'm going through each choice. So I'm reading go, and then she indicates, and her way of indicating is by making a She just clicks her tongue. Some people might indicate with a nod. Some people might indicate with a blink. Um, as long as you have a way to say, yep, that's the one, that's all you need for this. So I am reading her these choices. If it were somebody who is hard of hearing, I could be signing her the choices as I'm showing her them as well. And so I'm just reading them. She said, yep, go, that's the one I want. So then I flip to the go page up there at the top, and now I have places where she can go. So go home, go school, go mall, go doctor's office, go outside, right? So she said, yep, outside, that's the one I want. And that's her choice. So that's a low tech way of communicating. Hey, Brad, we're not ready for you. You can also just have a low tech board that you point to. So my daughter can't point. That's why we do our low tech the way that we do it, because she's unable to point. But if you can point, well, then pointing's a great way to just, you have a board like this that you can just point to and say the words that you want to say. High tech, that's like these devices, right? So accent devices, NovaChat devices, devices from Tobii Dynavox, those are all high-tech solutions. And mostly what Jason was talking about today is he evaluates folks for high-tech solutions. And this is kind of what they come away with, something like this. The iPad is also considered a high-tech solution. It's just not a fundable high-tech solution. So you can't get it funded through insurance, but it's still a high-tech solution. And there's still some great vocabularies out there available on the iPad. These are just a few of PRC Saltillo's vocabularies. And what sets them apart from other people is really these four things. Number one, is based on core vocabulary. And I know Jason talked a little bit about core vocabulary. And so it's 400 to 500 words that really make up about 80% of what we say. That's what core is. And then that fringe, that's the other 20%. And it's made up of thousands and thousands and thousands of words. And it's really person specific. So I love the Braves. So I need words in my fringe vocabulary like baseball and like Tyler Matzik. Those are fringe words that are important to me today because I need to be able to say some of those baseball words. You might be into quilting, and if you're into quilting, then your fringe vocabulary is going to be very different than mine. So this idea of core vocabulary, it's really important that that group of about 400 to 500 words that we all say is easy to get to. Now, does that mean that we make fringe hard to get to? No, it's just, we don't say those words quite as much, so they might be a little deeper in the system. There's also this idea of word families. So kind of means like you have a picture of an apple. Apple might represent the word eat. It also might represent the word hungry. It also might represent the word food. So that's a word family, right? We look at a picture and it represents a variety of ideas. The concept of motor planning for a word. Motor planning, if you're not sure what that is, it's kind of like typing. When we type on a regular keyboard, many of us don't have to look. You don't have to look because your fingers know where those keys are. And you can even feel when you made a mistake without even seeing it appear on the screen sometimes. That's because you have motor plans for those words. And so we want that same thing to happen on a communication device so that it's really automatic. And then the other really important thing is single words. Since we're trying to help youngsters develop language, we don't want to teach them like a whole sentence. We want to teach them one word plus one word so that you can learn to put words together in new and unique ways. So one thing also that I should point out, because I was hearing the host talking about reasons why someone who is deaf or hard of hearing might benefit from a device. It's often because maybe they have an access need of some sort. So I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that access sometimes means maybe I can't touch on an iPhone because it's too little, right? That might be too small. So maybe I need to go to a little bit bigger screen, or maybe I need a key guard. And a key guard is just something that has like little dividers between each square to make it easier for you to get to the actual square you want. So maybe somebody could use a screen the size of an iPad, but they need that support of a key guard. Some people also use a mouse or a joystick to get around on their device. So if you have somebody who drives a power chair, they can use that same joystick to control the mouse pointer on their screen for their device. There's also head tracking. I haven't seen that with many kids, but head tracking is where you wear like this little teeny tiny sticker right there between your eyes, and wherever you're moving your head. So if I move up, the mouse cursor moves up. If I move my head down, the mouse cursor moves down. Okay. And then there's eye tracking. That's what my daughter uses now. But before she used eye tracking, she used switch scanning. And she used a single switch to scan through her choices, which is kind of what we were doing with that low tech board when I was pointing. She was kind of doing it just without an actual physical switch there. She was making the click of the switch with her tongue. So scanning, this is an example of a little guy who's scanning through his choices. I really want you to be able to hear him.
Christine, did you, at the top, there's a button that says more, and it's to select computer sound, like share sound. Do you have that
Oh,
turned on?
yes. More,
Mm-hmm.
share sound.
There you go.
Okay, so hopefully that works. I don't hear him at all on my end. Oh, maybe I have the sound disabled? You know, technology. It can be so much fun when it like works, but it can be not fun when it doesn't want to work the way you want it to. Anyhow, I'll just show you a little bit of this video. So what this little guy is doing is that switch on the left. That's how he hears his choices. So he's scanning through the choices. And then when he hears the one he wants, he selects the switch on the right to indicate, yes, that's the one. And then that word is spoken out loud so that the folks who are there can hear what he's trying to say. And you can see that he's got pretty significant physical impairments, but he's still able to control these two switches if they're placed appropriately. All right. So I'm going to look and see the chat if there's anything that needs to be. Oh, thank you for the links to the videos. Yeah, then you can hear the whole thing. That'll be helpful for folks. I appreciate you throwing those there in the chat. All right. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to carry on, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our story. So these are just some thoughts from my own personal experience. We had a very challenging start to our lives with Kylie. I will never forget the day the doctor told us when she comes home, instead of, I had been thinking if she comes home. So the when she comes home, that was a really big deal for me. But then we got home, and there was a lot to deal with. There was a lot. She wasn't eating good. She was crying all the time. We needed her to be in therapy a lot. She threw up every single time we got in the car. So we would get in the car, we would ride, she would throw up, I would have to change her. Then we'd have to drive again, go back home, throw up again. I mean, it was a really hard time in life. And she was getting speech twice a week, PT twice a week, OT twice a week. Plus, she had a developmental pediatrician, a neurologist, a gastroenterologist, a regular pediatrician, a list of folks that she's supposed to be seeing on a about 3 months rotation. So you can imagine we were in the car a lot, dealing with lots of throw up. It was a very, very hard time. So I like to tell folks that because I think that unless you've ever lived that life, it's hard to really imagine what families are going through during that first year, 2 years, 3 years, as they're trying to get acclimated to what life might be like. And it can be a real challenge, especially when you have a lot of health issues. So as she got a little bit older, some better things started happening in our lives. We found out that she could get therapy at the house. We were like, what? What is this? Therapy at home? We are all in. So that was life changing for us. And she started doing eye gaze at a very, very, very young age. Now, by eye gaze, what I mean is we had 2 photographs. These are 2 of her photographs here that we actually used. So one was her crib and that other one was her stander. And so I would hold up 2 pictures side by side and I would say, Kylie, which one do you want? And she would kind of look, and then her eyes would kind of land on one. And then that's the one that we assumed she wanted. So that we started that at a very young age. And the reason why is because my older daughter, we had done sign language with when she was a baby. And by the time she was 6 months old, she had a ton of words. And so we knew that Kylie was equally bright and equally capable of learning language. We just had to give her a way to do it because baby signs weren't working for her. She couldn't physically make the signs. She could understand them. If I signed to her, she knew what that meant, but she couldn't say it herself. So we knew we needed another strategy for her. And so we started doing these photographs. As she got older, she needed more words, more symbols. So we started using symbols like these, right? We started with real life pictures. So this is a little boy, not her. It's just some kid, but it's the actual picture of a head. And then we kind of moved to a little more generic picture, something that's more a drawn picture like the stomach here. And so I don't know much about this, but they tell me that it's easier for kids to understand a picture of the actual head versus a picture like this. So we kind of graduated from one to the other. And she was able to do this, right? So like I could ask her, is it your head hurting or your stomach hurting? Which one, head or stomach? So again, she would just linger on the one that she wanted. So this was a big leap for her, right? This is a move to something more symbolic. It's a symbolic representation. It's not the same as the actual photograph of the actual thing when you start going to a picture like this one here of the stomach. The problem was she needed more choices. And the other problem was these pictures really only covered one part of speech, nouns. That's really the only words that she had. And so I don't know what kind of moms you guys are, but I can tell you what kind of mom I was. So my daughter had about 200 words, and that meant 200 pictures, right? And my organizational system for them was a gallon Ziploc baggie. They were all shoved in there together. So that was my organization. It was beautiful. I have since seen lots of moms who are not me that have like books, and on this page there's pictures of all the foods, and on this page there's pictures of all the clothes, and on this page. That was not me. It was not me. So I had a real challenge with managing all these pictures. And I would shuffle through the bag and I'm pulling things out. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? I mean, it got to be a real problem. And again, the other thing was it really was only one part of speech. It was really only nouns because most of these pictures were noun based. And so she took her first receptive language vocabulary test at the age of 3. And every verb on the test she got wrong. And she scored at age level. So I knew something was wrong. I knew I was doing something wrong. I mean, I'm a special ed teacher. Surely I can get this right. But I didn't. And so what we learned was that we needed to do some things a little bit differently. And the other thing was I had some personal things I had to overcome. I'll try not to get weepy because I still sometimes do. But one of the things was that I really did not want her to get a wheelchair. And the reason why I didn't want her to get a wheelchair was because I had been working really, really hard with her to help her learn to walk. And my thinking was that getting a wheelchair means she's never going to walk. So it was kind of, to me, that was giving up on that dream. And it was very hard for me personally. So what I discovered, and this was a discovering that really can only happen in a way that discoveries can happen with families. What I discovered is that I had taken Kylie to Stone Mountain and I had taken her in a pushchair. And she cried the whole time we were there at Stone Mountain. And I cried while we were at Stone Mountain. And it was not a fun experience. After she got her personal chair that she could drive herself, we went back to Stone Mountain and it was a joyous experience. The difference was the first time she could not go where she wanted to go. She was not independent. She could not see what she wanted to see. She was reliant on me for that. And when she had her own transportation and she could get her own self around, it really did shift the whole, her whole demeanor. It shifted everything. So that being said, I felt like it was, that same thing was going to be true with communication device. I had already learned that lesson with the wheelchair and then she got a communication device. And so what I had been afraid of was, oh, if she gets a device, she's not going to talk. But then I used that same lesson I learned with the wheelchair and I translated it to the device and I said, oh, but this device is going to give her the independence to communicate what she wants to say to me. It doesn't matter if she says it with signs, if she says it with her voice, if she says it with her communication device, if she says it by pointing. I don't care how she tells me what she wants to tell me as long as she can say what she wants to say. And I don't care how she gets from point A to point B as long as she can get there independently. But that was a realization I had to come to on my own. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's a journey. So moving right along. So we did have to figure out a way to get more words, right? So if I'm only doing two, I have 2 hands, just like many of you, 2 hands. So I can only hold up 2 pictures at a time, which is pretty limiting when you're trying to build vocabulary for somebody. So I found this business card holder thing here, and I started using it for pictures because it holds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, a lot more, right? So I did not fill it up because it's really hard to tell where somebody is looking precisely if the pictures are too small and too close together. So instead, I kind of started spacing them out. So I would have one at the top left, one at the top right, one at the bottom left, one at the bottom right. And then I left a space in the middle blank so that I could still see her and she could still see me. So then I could see if she's looking up to the top left or if she's looking up to the top right, I can see where her eyes are going. So that space in the middle was kind of important. And we still had the same problem. No verbs yet. I hadn't figured out how to make that happen. And she really couldn't put words together. So she really wasn't building language. So one of the key things that I learned from my lessons from Kylie is that I need to choose my words wisely. Nouns are important. A word like head and stomach, those are important words. I need her to be able to tell me when she's hurting and where she's hurting. But she also needs words like eat and drink and go and stop and more. Those words just aren't always as easily depicted. And I think that's why we had a harder time finding those. Like I told you, my collection system was a little cumbersome for the pictures. So what now? Now we got to move on, right? Time to move on. So we started, we went to Children's Healthcare, and my daughter started going to this club. I don't know what you call it. So I guess a small group of kids, all about 3 years old, all working on emergent communication skills. And they started introducing her to things like this, these buttons. And so for her to hit a button, it's this like overarm, like that. It takes a lot of effort. It's very effortful for her, not easy. But it was something. And for that, this one here with the 2 buttons, she could kind of rest her hand on that little bar in the middle, and then she could lean and lean to either side. So now she had these verbalized. When you hit the switch, it says a thing. So like she had a big button like this that she could hit, and it would say trick or treat, right? So she could take it around when she was trick or treating, and then that it verbalized for her the words that she wanted to say. This one that she was resting her hand on that little black bar in the middle, you could put 2 messages there. So now she could say like yes or no, or stop or go, or you could program it with all kinds of different things. But we did a lot of yes, no for her initially until she got to where she could do her head. So I told you a little bit about that. By the age of 3, she is getting her first communication device. And she has it and she's not using it. So I can tell you, I can tell you all the mistakes I made because I made a billion mistakes. And so there's just so many lessons to be learned from all my mistakes that I can help you not to make similar mistakes. But one of the things that I did that was not so great was that when she first got her device, I was super excited because I said, now we're going to show the world all how smart she is. My daughter is brilliant, and she's going to show everybody that she knows her colors and her numbers and her shapes and her letters and all of these things. So that's what I focused on her communication device. The problem is that her communication device was really hard for her to use. So the way that she used it initially was she had a little switch that was attached to her wheelchair. Like it sat right here about her temple. And the box around the buttons would move like by itself. So it would go click, 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 and she's watching it move right through the choices until she gets distracted because somebody walked in the room and she's 3, or until she decides that she doesn't want to do this anymore, right? So she has to wait for it to get to the right box. Then she has to click it in time for it to say the thing that she wants to say. And that's a lot for a 3-year-old. So she had a device, she really didn't do anything with it. But what I did do good is I modeled. So when I wasn't trying to get her to use her device to tell me shapes and colors and letters and numbers, I was modeling for her. So for instance, modeling just means pointing to the thing that you're trying to get the person to say. Modeling is something we do all the time. So you're probably doing it now. If you're trying to teach somebody sign language, you might say the word eat, you might show them the word eat. Um, you know, the same thing if you're trying to teach AAC. I'm saying it's time to eat. And then on the device, I'm showing the button eat, right? So that you can start to associate. And then when she sees the cup and the plate and the food come out, oh, that button and that word that she's saying, those mean that thing. That's what modeling is. Now, prompting, modeling means you're just showing somebody something. You really don't have an expectation that they're going to say anything back. Prompting is showing somebody something and then waiting on them like you want something back. So you can show, you can physically assist, you can gesture, you can verbally prompt, you can say, oh, I think it's right there. There's lots of different kinds of ways to prompt, and there's prompting hierarchies, all kinds of things that you can take into account with that. But I mostly modeled with her. And I think modeling is a really good strategy for trying to teach new things. That's what the research shows anyway. So all these challenges and barriers that I had put in Kylie's way, this man here, Bach, fixed them all. Now, Bach is a device user himself. He also happens to be hard of hearing. He also happens to have cerebral palsy. He uses his device with his pointy finger because he doesn't have a real good finger point like this. He has some signs, but they're not always easily understood by others. So he uses a combination of communication like we all do, right? I'm using my hands now, I'm using my mouth, I'm gesturing, I'm pointing, I'm showing. That's how we all communicate. And that's how Bach communicates. Well, Bach also has a special way of seeing to the heart of the matter. And what Bach saw was the things that I had been doing wrong. He saw quickly that I had made the device work for Kylie and not a communication tool, that I had turned the device into this negative experience for her because it didn't have any power for her. And the only reason why somebody might want to use a communication device is because then they have power, right? That's why we all talk, because it gives us a way to have power in the world, right? If I say, let's go out to eat, and then we all go out to eat, then I had some power. I changed the situation by voicing what I was thinking. He taught her that. He taught her that she could tell her mom to go stand in line and get her what she wanted to eat so that she didn't have to go wait in line. He taught her that she could press the button do on the device and then do again on the device. And then she could say doo doo, which at the age of 5 is absolutely hilarious. He taught her that she could tell jokes with her device, which she thought was so funny and so engaging. He taught her that communication is fun. And so it wasn't long after this that she really started to discover the power of communication. And she really started her journey with high tech. So we finally got her first device, and she was doing single switch, row column, auto scanning. So remember I told you before, when she first started, she had those 8 big boxes, right? And it just scrolled through those 8 boxes and she hit the switch, or she was supposed to hit the switch when it got to the square she wanted. Now she's got 45 squares. Well, it's too much to go through 45 squares. That would take forever to get to the 45th one. So what you do instead is you go row by row by row. So the choices would go row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. Yep, it's in that row. Hit my switch. And then it would start at the top and go square, 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 square. Yep, that's the square I want. Hit my switch again. You can imagine how painstaking that is to communicate that way. Takes a long time. Was it effective? It became effective. She was able to start communicating some simple words. So now she's got a device. She got her first device from the school when she was 3. She had it all the way up until about age 7 before she really even started saying one word with it at a time. So it was quite a journey just to get this far. She started using her device regularly at school. She was fully included in kindergarten. As she got older, technology changed. She got a device and she started thinking about eye gaze. Eye gaze technology started to get a little better around this time, but it still wasn't good enough for her. She needed it to be better. So she continued scanning all the way up until middle school and through middle school. You probably don't care about that, but you might care about this. Oh, no, it doesn't want to open. Really doesn't want to open? I don't think it does. Okay. So you'll just have to imagine that. As she gets older, she's in school. She's doing well. She's learning language, but she's also having academic challenges too. She's included in general ed, so you can see here a group of her friends at a dance that they went to. She's getting faster and faster with her device. She uses her device for lots of things. So people with physical challenges need their device for lots of things. So she uses hers for her phone. She uses it with Alexa. She uses it with for Facebook. She uses it for email. She uses it for all of her schoolwork. So because she can't physically use a mouse to get around a computer screen and she can't use a finger to touch on a phone, her device allows her to do those things as well, which is really cool. She gave her first speech in 3rd grade. That was really exciting. And this speech probably took her 4 hours to write. So, and it probably took her about 2 minutes to get. It just took a long time for her to do things at this age. So, and people had to learn to be patient with her, to wait. If you really wanted to hear what she had to say, you had to wait. After she gave that speech, she was super proud of herself. She asked me, "Do you think everyone loved it?" You could see her pride and her confidence developing. She was meeting new people. And as time went on, her access got quicker and quicker. I did say that speech took her 4 hours to write. She had a goal when she was in 3rd grade to write a 3-word sentence in 5 minutes or less. So if that gives you an idea of like what her speed was like at that age. But I'm still thinking long term. So we start looking back at eye gaze again. And just so you can see, this is her using eye gaze now. Well, that's an ad. So this is her using eye gaze now. And there's a little yellow dot, if you can catch it, moving around the screen wherever she's looking. And when that dot lingers on a square, that's how she clicks. So far she asked, what do you oops, she made a mistake. Like to, oh, another mistake. Eat. So look at that. What do you like to eat? 42 seconds. She's now able to put together, and this was a few years ago. She's even faster now. So this is with eye gaze. What an improvement. Now she's got some ways to efficiently be able to communicate. This is really cool. She's a video pen pal buddies with another device user. So that's what she's doing there. She's creating a video. She sends it to the other girl. The other girl sends her a video back, and that they can share answers and talk that way. So her speed increase is astronomical. And part of the other thing that's changed a bunch is her language. So when she was young, she talked what I called it Yoda speak, because it always seemed like she was putting the main idea first. So like she would say baseball, and I would say, okay, well, what about baseball? Go. What about going? Go we, right? So now it says baseball, go we. What she really means to say is, are we going to a baseball game today? That's what she's trying to ask, right? But she asked it backwards. And the reason why is because what she's hoping is that if she says one word, that I'm going to be able to guess what she's trying to tell me. And so one thing I really had to work on is recasting with her and expanding. So recasting is interpreting what she's trying to say and then saying it back to her in the grammatically correct way. And expanding is expanding on what she says. So if she said baseball, I might say, yes, we're going to see baseball. That's expanding. And that's a big expansion. So I might start smaller. I might start with go baseball, right? So if she's just saying baseball, maybe I expand by saying go baseball. So it's just little things like that that you learn to do over time to help with growing language. So what else is she doing? She's doing a ton of stuff still today. She trains her own staff now. She blogs. She got her bronze and silver award through Girl Scouts. She has presented at a ton of conferences, GATE, GASHA, Ideas Conference, Parent Mentor Conference, it's ISTE. She's the first child with an obvious disability to attend her school. And so that's super exciting. And it looks like because of how well she's done that maybe they're going to expand their offerings in the future, which would be amazing. She volunteers at the Humane Society. She's actively involved in her church. And she's planning for college. So she's applying now to go to college, to think about the future, to think about what her life is going to be like, what her living arrangements are going to be like. There's a lot to think about. So she loves cats. She loves animals. She thinks maybe she wants to do something with animals one day. So I kind of wanted to leave you with this idea of 3 really easy things that you could do to implement AAC. And remember, AAC is low tech, mid tech, high tech, no tech even, and communication devices, communication boards. Have the thing available. So if you're doing signs, you always have your hands available. So that's nice, right? But if you're using something like a low tech board, you need to make sure you have your board available when life is happening, because you never know when that perfect opportunity to communicate might show up. So you always need to have your equipment available. The other thing is modeling. Model. I modeled for 4 years on Kylie's device before she started talking. 4 years. It's a really long time to model. I just showed her where words were. And then when she was ready, she started saying those words. So, and then the final thing is responding. If somebody says something with their signs, with their low-tech board, with their low-tech AAC, with their high-tech device, if they say something, you need to respond back to them. Then they know, I said this and this is what happened. So I try to tell parents that's really all AAC intervention is. Have the device, model on it, and then when your child says something on it, say something back. So if you can do those three things, I think you've got a lot together. So I am going to look back at the chats and see what questions there might be.
Nikki, can you read any of the things from the chat so she doesn't have to scroll through them? I know
Thank you.
somebody had asked, and I don't know if this is a personal question, if you want to answer it, what was her diagnosis?
Oh, she has cerebral palsy. So that's her overriding diagnosis. She's got a lot of other things too, but that's the main thing.
Yes, that was the one question that popped into the chat. If anybody else has any other questions, please post them in the chat or in the Q&A. And I think, Linda, you and Sherry may have some other questions.
They were also asking about, is there a course to take to learn this? I saw somebody said that to me.
Is there a course?
Course, like how to do this, if they're an
Oh.
SLP, how would they learn how to get these skills?
Oh, yes. There's
Family.
a lot of courses. There's a lot of courses available. PRC Saltillo, we have a ton of classes on everything from like how to learn the language on the device to how to implement to how to foster reading and writing skills and I mean like a whole host of things. So, we really try to make it user friendly, which is nice because I can tell you when my daughter first got her device, there was like no training. Had to figure it out on my own.
Okay, so are these courses, are they in person? Are they videos?
So we are doing live online courses that you can sign up for to take a class. There are recorded webinars also. And then I haven't done any since COVID, but I used to do live in-person trainings, and people would come and sign up and register and take classes like that. And I anticipate that I could start doing that again sometime soon. So kind of trying to feel it out and see. I've been pretty protective because Kylie really.
Just looking at people are saying it was highly motivating to hear about Kaylee. And
Good.
that was really awesome. People like personal stories so that they can attach. It
Yeah.
isn't a reason to attach it. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else in here.
We're all great on time.
I think we're great. We're on time, and I thank you so much,
That was amazing.
Christine.
You're a very motivating speaker as well as from a parent. Like, I mean, that was awesome.
Well,
And your
I-
daughter's
I-
really lucky to have you.
I believe really strongly in what I do because I've seen how life-changing it is for her. And there's nothing that a mom wants more than to hear the thoughts in their kid's head. You know, she asked me when she was like 6 or 7 years old, why don't my legs work like other people's? Like she didn't say it in those terms, but
Yeah.
like she was asking those kinds of questions. And I'm like, thank goodness she has a way to ask me things so that we can talk about that stuff. Like, how do you talk about those things if you don't even know that that thought is in the head? And I would never think that a little kid like that would be thinking those thoughts. But she was.
And
So
she can retain it when you talk to her.
yes. Yeah, she's a sharp cookie. She's
Yeah.
a sharp cookie.
At least you're letting, I have been, like I said, as a therapist, I knew that the auditory piece was going in, the child was understanding it, even though that they were deaf or hard of hearing. But physically, they could not do it the other way. And so I've been using the two pictures. I'm like getting that eye gaze going. So I kept thinking, okay, this is all I know. I
Right.
don't know where else to go next,
Yeah.
and that's why I've been searching, and I've been doing this for over 40 years. And it's like I get more and more kids with multiple disabilities. And
Mhm.
I just need another option because I know they have a lot to say. And it's really hard for us as therapists when we're trying to get it out this way when it's not coming that way. And it is going in, but
Mhm.
I just don't know how to get it out. So it's been great. I mean,
Good.
people are just commenting on chat like this has been so inspirational.
Good.
Thank you. You know that. So I just want you to know how much everyone appreciates it. But
I am so
before,
glad that I could come.
oh, I'm so glad you did. And Nikki, one more housekeeping tip here.
Yes, yes. So please remember to go in, and I posted this in the chat several times. Please go in and access your online evaluation forms to receive your CEUs. This is the only way you'll be able to access these links. Once you leave the meeting, we will not be sending them out. So please go ahead and open those links, fill in your forms, and then we will be processing and emailing you your certificates. Also, after the webinar, we'll be sending out an email to everyone that registered with the PDF of these presentations, with the contact information for the presenters, and with a recording of this full webinar. And this is the link to the online evaluation form. I just posted it again in the chat. Yeah, I think that's everything. For anybody that noted that they're not a member of AG Bell or AG Bell Georgia, and that they requested that information, we'll also be sending out a separate email with information about how to become a member.
No, you gotta go to share first.
Okay, hold on. We were just trying to get back to our PowerPoint really quickly just to share, and that is exactly what we were going to next. Thank you very much. Hold on just a sec.
Linda, we've got a question about when we're gonna be doing this again.
Famous question.
Spring?
Well, we try to do something annually, but it's not, you know, COVID was really tough. And this is our second one, so we would love to do it again.
It is getting easier.
It is.
So there's that.
Yeah, we did.
We'll see it most likely again.
And we didn't have as many glitches this time around as we did in the past. So
our outlets worked.
we're getting better at it. But again, Sherry's going to be the new president starting in 2022, and I'll be exiting, but I will be assisting her, and we will definitely, and if anyone, and this is, I was thinking about this earlier, if anyone has a topic that you need us to explore, do give us some ideas, because we do want it for parents and for professionals, and we will always try to get credits for the professionals. So if you have a topic that pertains to communication, such as, you know, for us, it's listening and spoken language. It's like listening and speaking. Like I said, it's been tough. I can get it in auditorily, but for the kids, I couldn't get it out verbally. So what other option did I have? And that's when I was doing like picture. Everything was a picture, and I'm looking for an eye gaze because they couldn't point to it. So, but we are still interested in topics. So maybe we'll do another one next year for you all. If you can give us some ideas of where you're having difficulties in your therapy or so forth and so on. So we do want you to get involved with us. Again, we do have, also we have a Facebook, and Kathy Newbern is our action group professional leader. She is the one who put all this together as far as getting credits and discussing the speakers and so forth and so on, getting them to with their PowerPoints and everything. So she is the person that we want you to contact with some new ideas. So she is the person head of the professional group. And we do have other groups available with our Georgia Bell. We have Birth to 5, we have an action group, we have elementary action groups, we have middle school action groups, high school and college and post-college, and adults. So just know that we do have people who are leading those groups, and we might only have 2 big major groups meetings for the big organization, but the smaller groups meet more often. And they do little socials together. So whether it be virtually or in person, depending on what COVID's doing to us. So, but we hope to see you all, and we would love for you to all spread the word that deaf children can speak and they can learn to listen and speak. And so that's what we do here with the Georgia chapter. So we want to thank you again for coming. And again, check us out on Facebook. We do have like us. That would be great. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.